Never seen it. Never seen it. You know what China could be trimming? Lord of the Rings. You just go in, they play like the first scene, and then it's like, and they go for a walk in the woods. The f***ing end. You're welcome. I just saved you so many hours of your life. Xi Jinping.
All right, then. Keep your secrets.
Hello there and welcome back to World News Wednesday, which rarely goes out on a Wednesday. We published the first one of these last week. And so people were like, Simon, this is the most brain-blazed thing I've ever seen. You've got World News Wednesday and you publish it on a Friday. I'm like, yeah, look, okay, we don't always get things out in order. Anyway, what happens here? Danny writes it, I read it. Let's go. You've decided to enjoy another viewing of The Wicker Man, not the terrible Nicolas Cage remake, obviously. I mean the original, classic 1973 horror film starring Edward Woodward as a police officer lured to Summerall on a wild goose chase to find the supposedly missing girl, Rowan Morrison. Danny, this sounds terrible. And you know what's great? Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage, genuinely one of my favorite actors. I think everything he does, most of the stuff he does, pretty terrible. But then he does these absolute gems of movies, and you're like, yes. Yeah! You're approaching the shockingly intense climax where Edward Woodward realizes that it was all just a stitch-up and the mad pagan islanders intend to sacrifice the devout police officer to the gods to yield a bountiful harvest. The Wicker Man is the one with the bees, right? When Nick Cage is in that cage, he's like, oh, the bees! Not the bees! Sorry. It's something like that. And I mean, that level of overacting, well, let's just say it's Cagean, isn't it? It's Cagean.
Open my eyes! My eyes!
Daddy, chill.
I once read, it was like a review about Nick Cage's acting. And I can't remember who the reviewer was, but he was saying, like, Nick Cage is one of the most interesting actors around because he's one of the only people who's trying to bring something new to acting. And that's really how I feel about Nick Cage. I'm like, he tries something new. He experiments. He doesn't just act. He really experiments. And sometimes you get the beast! And sometimes you get brilliance.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
He's going to get shoved inside a giant wicker man and burned alive, along with various pigs and other disgruntled animals as the islanders hold hands and burst into joyous folk song. Oh, don't tell Peter. Oh my god, someone emailed me the other day. It's like, oh no. Like about how, I can't remember what it was, how I made fun of veganism or something. And how I'm a terrible person. And how we're killing animals by the billions. And I know. Then why did God make them taste so bloody delicious? Why would you do this, God? If you didn't want us to kill billions of chickens a year, why would you make their wings useless and so delicious? Why?
How dare you?
But the action stops around 20 minutes before this fiery finale. A caption pops up on screen to inform the viewer that Edward Woodward's police officer arrested all the naughty islanders and the whole of Summerall was turned into a rehabilitation centre for misled pagans. What? Does that really happen in the movie? That's insane. Rowan Morrison was found alive and well, and he went on to train as a chemist. Edward Woodward received a promotion to chief inspector. What is going on? I don't believe that's exactly what happens. I'm fairly sure that they were burned alive with those pigs. And the people dancing around it like, I've never seen this movie. This is how I imagine it ends myself. They're dancing around and they're like, is that the smell of bacon or human? Or both? I remember when there was BSE in the UK, or foot and mouth disease, one of the two. I think I was foot and mouth disease. I remember being at school. And the school was like in the middle of the countryside, so there were loads of farms around. And I swear, like, the whole country smelled of bacon. Like, they were just burning animals, burning them by their millions. And the whole country just smelled delicious. And you're like, foot and mouth, bacon. Wait a minute, that can't be how it ends. Thankfully, such a cut of The Wicker Man is not known to exist. But if it were to exist anywhere in the world, it would surely be in China. Oh wait, are we talking about how China edit movies to have like more appropriate endings? No. The country has developed a tendency to chop up international films to be absorbed by the vulnerable, innocent minds of the public, even if that means completely rewriting the ending and apparently not refilming it. They're just like, yeah, and then this happens. Be like, wait. Chinese people will be like, Okay. And it's a never-ending story, which has once again courted controversy following the recent streaming of the new Chinese version of Fight Club. There can't be many people left on the planet who haven't seen David Fincher's cult classic from 1999, in which Edward Norton's narrator finds himself embroiled in a in a subversive plot to destroy modern civilization, cooked up by Brad Pitt's Tyler Durden. Hey, spoiler alert, he's not real. It's ultimately revealed to be the narrator's alter ego. I saw Fight Club way late. Like, I don't know, Fight Club 1999, I want to say. I saw that movie maybe 10 years ago. I've just never seen it somehow. Or like, maybe it was 5 years after it came out. Somehow, I didn't know that it was that Tyler Durden wasn't real. It's like when I saw The Usual Suspects and I got to the end and I'm like, oh my God, these guys are so safe. It's Kevin Spacey. You're welcome. Durden plans to... God, I'm such a dick.
Oh, there's a fucking surprise.
Durden plans to wipe out world debt and consumerism by orchestrating a Dude, it's Fight Club. Everyone knows this. Even I know this, and I've seen like 4 movies according to the comments. Attack on buildings, the companies that hold all the credit card records. The narrator eventually manages to kill off his own disassociated personality, but the skyscrapers still fall to the bombs in a memorable, explosive, and chaotic climax. But it didn't... It felt that the ending of that movie, like, as good as Fight Club is, it felt a bit ridiculous. Because I'm like, yo. Like, I know, like, that terrorism happens and, like, buildings get destroyed. But there's been, like, there's been lots of terrorist attacks. But, like, destroying skyscrapers has happened, like, unless I'm really mistaken, one time. 9/11. It's not something that, you know, it's not something that happens very often. Because the government generally are like, yeah, we kind of a little bit on top of that, at least, just a little bit. But it didn't pan out quite the same when, after a wait of over 20 years, Chinese movie lovers finally got a chance to legally watch Fight Club as it landed on the video streaming platform Tencent Video. I was watching a movie the other day, and at the beginning it was like brought to you by Tencent Video, and it's some Hollywood production. And I'm like, oh my God, the Chinese, that Chinese money is everywhere. Like, you'll be driving on some road in Africa, be like Chinese money.
China!
You're watching a movie in like Europe, and it's like, oh, it's that Chinese money.
China!
Man, the Chinese have a lot of money.
China!
In this new Chinese cut, we never make it as far as the cool explosions and the destruction of debt. Instead, the screenplay prematurely fades to black before displaying a final lump of text on the screen, which wraps everything up much more quickly. The caption helpfully explains to viewers that, through the clues provided by Tyler Durden, the police rapidly figured out the whole plan and arrested all of the criminals, successfully preventing the bombs from exploding. After the trial, Tyler was sent to a lunatic asylum receiving psychological treatment. He was discharged from the hospital in 2012. It's so specific. It feels like something I could write. And I obviously can't write. I had to pay people to write for me. So the authorities won the day and the rebellion was swiftly crushed. The end. Thank you for watching. I'll see you. Nah. If we're being picky, we could say it doesn't really make the slightest bit of sense. And that this cut of the film had already depicted the narrator killing off his alter ego, Tyler. So, how do you put a dead figment of someone's imagination on trial and then send them to the lunatic asylum? And if we were being even more picky, we could argue that it pisses all over the original intention of the film. If we were being picky, Danny, all this does is piss over the intention. All the intention of the film is like an anti-consumerist message, like an anti-establishment message. And basically, you've turned Fight Club into an establishment movie.
You're just ruining it. Look at my lips. You're ruining it. Ruining.
It would be like doing Schindler's List and then being like, yeah, and then the Nazis won. You'd be like, what the f***, man? Maybe they did that. Nah, not even China likes the Nazis. Why would I say not even China likes the Nazis? They're like communists. They're like the opposite of fascists. Which is weird, because they're also like a little bit oppressive, aren't they? Politics is so weird. It's a bit like The Italian Job, cutting off the last 30 minutes depicting the iconic gold bullion heist and replacing with a caption explaining that all the criminals realized the errors of their ways and handed themselves into the nearest police station for a bit of a good whipping. Or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, removing the final scenes in the film and replacing it with a stark warning that Ferris was arrested for truancy and spent the next 10 years of his life in a detention center. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of the few old films that I've seen, and it's really good. Or Spartacus coming to a very early conclusion when the titular character changes his mind about staging a rebellion and promises to be a good, obedient slave from that day forward. Yeah, not only there, you're rewriting a movie, you're rewriting history, China. which I guess is your prerogative. It's kind of what countries do. Hey-ho! In fairness, that film could probably do with a bit of a trim anyway. Never seen it. Never seen it. You know what China could be trimming? Lord of the Rings. You just go in, they play like the first scene, and then it's like, and they go for a walk in the woods. The end. You're welcome. I just saved you so many hours of your life. Xi Jinping.
All right, then. Keep your secrets.
Now, just before we continue with today's video, let me give a shout out to the wonderful but somewhat ironic sponsor of today's video, Keeps. Look, 2 out of every 3 guys are going to experience some form of hair loss by the time they're 35. I always say this. Look, I'm almost 35. And I have been bald for a long-ass time. It's been the better part of 10 years. But Keeps offers clinically proven, research-based treatments to stop hair loss and improve your hair growth. But as I always say, it's too late for me. My hair is gone, and it ain't coming back unless I mean, there's obviously more dramatic stuff that I could do to restore my glorious locks. But don't wait. But like, once you've lost it, it's really, that's it. That's it. So you got to focus on prevention. And with Keeps, you can get quality expert care without having to have ever visited a doctor's office or pharmacy, which is nice. Because, I don't know, it can feel a bit like a vanity thing, can't it? And then you don't want to go to your doctor and be like, look. And they'll be like, so what seems to be the problem? You'll be like, nothing, I just want to keep my hair. And they'll be like, I mean, they won't because they're a doctor, but still, you won't really want to have that conversation. No, you don't need to with Keeps. Also, it's going to be a better deal. Each treatment plan comes with a full year of unlimited messaging, so you can connect with your prescribing doctor about anything, anytime, which is, you know, that's just handy in case you got some concerns or some worries. You could be like, yo, doc, what's up? And they'll be like, oh, hello. Let me deal with your problem. Their physicians will help you select the right products and treatments for your specific condition and your hair goals. So, hair loss stops with Keeps. To get 50% off your first order, go to keeps.com/brainblaze or click the link in the description below. That's Keeps, KEEPS.com/brainblaze. And now, back to the video with your bald guy, Simon. The newer, tighter Fight Club ending may have gone completely unnoticed in China if certain viewers hadn't already had the privilege of watching bootleg copies of the real deal years ago. Those people were then swiftly executed. And whilst it's not remotely uncommon for scenes in international movies to fall victim to the scissors of the Chinese censors, it was noted that changing the entire ending felt just a little bit extreme. Why not just not release the movie, China? Just be like, well, we're not having Fight Club because it's too anti-establishment. Done. Problem solved. Because no one in China is like, yeah, I guess that's how the movie really ended. Everyone goes on the internet, fires up their VPNs because of your great firewall. Obviously, people aren't that dumb. One Chinese fan declared this to be a pillar of shame in cinematic history. That Chinese fan was swiftly exited. No, it wasn't really. I mean, maybe he was. I don't know. It doesn't say it in the script. The author of the original 1996 novel, Chuck Palahniuk. Oh, God, I know. I've looked up the pronunciation of this guy's surname so many times, but I never remember it, so let's just call him Chucko. He tweeted, have you seen this? This is super wonderful. Everybody gets a happy ending in China. I like that he embraces it so much. I mean, the money's got to make it sweeter, right? I mean, I don't know. Does he actually get any money at this point? Because he just wrote the original book. He probably just got some big option fee. And whoever, like, made the money, like Weinstein, look, allegedly. I'm just saying, like, Weinstein was a big company. I have no idea who made Fight Club. I don't know, but look, they're probably making most of the money, aren't they? And even Senator Ted Cruz weighed into the debate, noting, the second rule of Fight Club is we'll do anything and say whatever the Chinese communist censors tell us to do and say. Why should we listen to... I mean, Ted Cruz, this is probably the only sensible thing you've ever said in your life. Ted Cruz, I know it's just because people make fun of Ted Cruz. And like every little YouTube clip of him or every time someone shares him on Twitter, it's probably just some liberal person I'm seeing someone sharing Ted Cruz's like stupidest shit. But the only exposure that I have to Ted Cruz is just stupid that he says. So I'm always like, Ted Cruz, he must be an idiot, right? And also his surname spelt Cruz, which is weird.
Looks like you missed your Spanish lesson today. Now beg for your life in Spanish.
At the time of writing this script, absolutely nobody involved in the original American production or Chinese distribution or the Chinese streaming platform had dared to make a comment on the edit. And although Chinese authorities are often keen to censor any Western vulgarities or anything that presents the country in a bad light or any scenes depicting dissidents against authority, oh my god, that's a long list, guys. Inspected that this edit may have been made much earlier in the chain than you might think. The new caption isn't just slapped clumsily into the end of the movie, it's depicted in exactly the same font used in the rest of the film, leading to some to speculate that the edit was made years ago in post-production, anticipating the possible need to appease Chinese authorities. Or, alternatively, they just looked up the font. It's not that hard. There are like these quizzes you can take online where it leads you through it. It's like, does the font have curly edges? Is it thick? And then it'll tell you, this is the font. And then you can just go download the font. Problem solved. The reason why Fight Club took so long to land in China in the first place may have had more to do with Brad Pitt than the content of the film. Really? Although reports that both the actor and all of his movies were officially banned from China for over a decade, that may have been exaggerated. It's true that Brad Pitt had a frosty relationship with the country after appearing in the 1997 film 7 Years in Tibet, in which his character befriends the Dalai Lama. The ice didn't appear to thaw until 2014, when Brad Pitt visited China with his wife, Angelina Jolie, who was on promotional duties for Magnificent. What the f***? Who cares?
Magnificent! Magnificent! Magnificent!
Although Brad elected to keep in the shadows and let Angelina do all of the talking, probably because if he stepped out of those shadows, he would have been executed. Just kidding. Harrison Ford, Martin Scorsese, and Richard Gere have all felt similarly unwelcome in China after daring to publicly support Tibet, which is something I will never do. Because I want to appease the Chinese overlords. Nah, I don't know. Like, I went to China. I told this story before. I went to China a few years ago, and as I always do on my visa applications to places allegedly, it's like, what do you do? Advertising. Because, I mean, technically, Google AdSense, that's where, you know, sponsors. That's what I do. I'm an advertiser. That's what I do. Definitely not a YouTuber. You don't want to put on your Chinese visa application that you make videos on a platform that is literally banned in China. Anyway, I put that on my Chinese visa application. I was like, whoosh, and they looked at it. And then they were like, we're going to need to have a word with you. And I was like, oh no, so I have to go to this like other place. And I'm talking to some guy who's like, so what, do you know, you're a YouTuber, huh? And I'm like, oh my God, did you Google me, motherfuckers? And they're like, you're not going to make any videos, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm just going there on a trip with my mate. And then I'm like, and they're like, okay, we need you to sign this document to say that you're not going to do that. And I'm like, okay. And I did. And then I go to China and I'm like,
oh crap. Am I going to be arrested?
And I didn't, and I had a wonderful time. And I didn't make any videos because I don't want to be executed. I don't think China's executing people, but I don't think they're executing people who don't like China. Right?
I just sold an apartment for $15 million to somebody from China. Am I supposed to dislike them?
At least they're not executing Brad Pitt. He's still around. However, there's an additional plot twist to this whole Fight Club censor saga, which suggests that online critics and Senator Ted Cruz, I know it's Cruz, shouldn't be quite so quick to raise their fists in anger at the perceived mutilation of a classic film. And we'll return to this point at the end of the show / video / news bulletin / ever whatever the fuck this is. You're welcome. Florida Man, what are you up to? Oh, it's a segment. We have segments now because we're a news show. Yes, get it together, Whistle. Florida Man attacks ATM for giving him too much money. We don't usually see it pan out this way around. I've lost count of the number of times I've seen people wailing in distress at the ATM when it refuses to dispense the beer vouchers that they desperately need for an afternoon session down at the Pig and Trough. On the trivial grounds, the customer has nothing left in the bank. Unacceptable. Where is my money? The annoying thing is that these stubborn machines never seem to listen to your side of the arguments, and they never change their electronic minds when you inevitably try sticking in the same card another 2 or 3 times in blind or ridiculous hope. Yeah, there's nothing more embarrassing than that. Like, even now, like, you go to the store and it's like, yeah, you want to pay for something so your card doesn't work? And I'm like, oh, I still have that cringe, but it's like, it's not because I don't have any money in there. I don't know why it's not working. And they're like, do you want to try another card? And you're like, oh, please, no, don't, come on. I don't have like, and then you open up your wallet, there's like 6 cards in there, and you're like, it's not what it looks like. I just have multiple bank. Oh, come on.
Oh, wow, that is very interesting. Please tell me more.
I remember I worked in a store. I've told this story a bunch of times, but another story from working in the store. I remember some woman came up and she'd bought like some shopping. And it was like a nice shopping, you know? You can always judge people about like what they buy. And it was all like Sainsbury's extra special or whatever the it was. Like extra special this. It was like a nice steak. It was a good bottle of wine and all of this stuff. This woman was dressed quite nicely. I run it all through and then she hands me a credit card. And you could see it's a credit card because it says credit card on there. And it's like, I'm sorry, this one isn't working. And so she takes that wallet and she's like, oh, try this one. Hands me another credit card. Doesn't work. Hands me another one. Doesn't work. She eventually gets like credit card number 4 and it works. And I'm like, woo! I mean, look, I'm making £4.53 an hour. But I'm glad I'm not in that financial situation. You wouldn't usually get too annoyed if the ATM appears to be in an overly generous mood. Unless you're a Florida man. And you're in a bit of a hurry. Surveillance footage from a branch of Wells Fargo in Cocoa. Really? In 2017 shows Michael Joseph Alexis from Merritt Island getting a little frustrated with the ATM when it starts spitting out far more money than it asked for. Now, honestly though, if I go to the ATM and it's like, what, I want like, I don't know, 100 quid. And then it starts spitting out like 500, I'll be like, yo, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't want this. I mean, I know my assumption is not that the ATM's made a mistake. I mean, it's made a mistake. It's not like it's giving me the money for free. My assumption is that it's taken 500 quid out of my bank account that I'm going to have to somehow pay back in or just keep and gradually spend over a really long time because who the uses cash anymore? Now, to be fair to Michael, it's not like he was complaining that the ATM was giving him free money. I'm pretty sure all of these notes would have been deducted from his bank account. And he perhaps needed to leave a big chunk in there to cover upcoming bills instead of having it all thrown in his face. But his reaction was a bit over the top, to say the least. Yeah, it's like my reaction to this would be, oh, for f***'s sake, really? Really? Maybe I'd be like, all right, fuck it. And then I'd immediately check my bank account balance to see if I'd actually only got charged for like 100 quid. The surveillance footage shows him physically pummeling the keyboard, holy in rage for several minutes. What are you up to? I'd just be like, ugh, and move on with your life. The bank later claims that he had caused around $5,000 worth of damage. Mate, how much does an ATM machine cost? Does a brand new ATM machine even cost $5,000? Is that possible? Could it be so? It's just a machine. However, I guess it's got a big safe in there. It's got some computer in there. It's got a screen. It's got to be like a couple of grand, maybe, no? However, Michael had the decency to later phone the branch of Wells Fargo with a groveling apology explaining that he'd been late for work and the situation with the ATM had flummoxed him and he didn't know what to do about it. Nice of him to apologize, but Wells Fargo pressed charges for criminal mischief anyway. I always love that criminal mischief is a thing. This is one of those situations where it's like in a movie and the person's just a regular person who just has like rage. This guy's not getting criminal record, but he's definitely being sent to like rage counseling or something. I dare say that the whole situation was caused by a man in a rush mistakenly pressing an extra digit rather than an ATM going rogue and making up his own mind about how much it was going to pay out today. Can an ATM really give you $5,000? That seems like a lot of money to be able to withdraw. And I suspect that Michael got away with a relatively modest fine, but I'd like to think that he paid the fine by turning up to Wells Fargo with a bag containing his entire life savings in $1 bills and then just threw them all at the staff at regular intervals until he was completely wiped out. I don't think that's how fines work, though. Back into the ring. Fight Club isn't the only example. This feels so random having these Florida Man segments in it. Do you guys like it? Does it feel right? I mean, I'm sure Sam's added some cool graphics to show that we're in an aside, but
you didn't.
Oh shit, I'm sorry.
I mean, I feel like we've taken a show that has a lot of asides, and then somehow we've added even more asides to them. Look, I'm trying to grow this show. I'm trying to make it better and better. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it... there's not a dislike button anymore, is there? So you. No, you can let me know in the comments, seriously. Fight Club isn't the only example of a movie receiving a particularly ham-fisted mauling from the Chinese censors. The Chinese version of the 2018 Freddie Mercury biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody, managed to cut out all of the bits that made reference to the Queen's frontman's sexuality, his relationships with men. I feel like that would belong in the sexuality segment, Danny. And his relationships with men, I read that already. If only I was more competent. and his AIDS diagnosis, leaving behind a choppy mess about 4 blokes who get a band together, play for a big concert, then probably go home for pie and chips. Did you just take out all of the drama from that movie? I mean, guys. The 2005 crime film Lord of War received a proper butchering at the hands of China. God, that is one of those Nick Cage movies where he just... If you haven't seen Lord of War, I mean, shit, what are you doing watching my crap? Go see Lord of War. In the original version of the film, Nicolas Cage plays a wealthy Ukrainian arms dealer who finds himself in a dramatic pickle with the law and briefly is incarcerated, but ultimately manages to avoid justice and is free to go back to doing what he does best. I love the movies. I mean, I hate it and I love it at the same time because it's like, in reality, it'd be like, I'd like the arms dealer to go to prison. But those movies where the ending is just like, and then everything was totally fine, I just love. There's that one, is it The Big Short, where it just ends, and they've got that whole, like, and then the government introduced, after the financial crisis, it's like, and then the government introduced new regulations and did all of this, and they made everything better, and all of the problems were fixed. And then they're like, except of course they didn't. And then it's just like, it just continues on as before with like barely any regulation, rich people doing crazy, like terrible rich people shit. And it's like, oh no. And what's that other one where it's like the one with the arms dealers that's not Lord of War, but the comedy with, oh my God, that guy is so funny. What's his name? God! But that's such a good movie. And then it's like, what if they were doing all these crazy crimes? It's like, yeah, I had to go to like prison for 6 months. That's it? What the fuck? The version shown on Tencent Video is missing a whole 30 minutes. But the crucial difference is that the film comes to an abrupt halt while Cage is still incarcerated, accompanied by a clunky caption which reads that he confessed to all his crimes allegedly charged against him in a court and was sentenced to life imprisonment. The end. Perhaps one of the weirdest cases of all was the 2003 Hong Kong film Naked Ambition, which was meant to be a fun sex comedy about 2 struggling college graduates who end up overcoming the odds to become big cheeses in the local porn industry. Guys, when it's a film like this, or about like, it'd be like a movie about Tiananmen Square, and they're like, no, we just cut out the Tiananmen Square bits. What, so it's just some B-roll and then the movie ends? I mean, Jesus, just don't have those ones air. You're China. You can do whatever the want. That's the benefits of being totalitarian. If you take that away, what's the point? The special Chinese cut of the film had a different title, The Inescapable Snare, but it also featured an entirely different plot, weaving through the original footage, which saw Hong Kong police officers hooking up with the Ministry of Public Security in Beijing on a mission to crack down on prostitution in the porn industry. So it's just completely different.
What the hell is even that?
So it becomes a morality tale, pointing out the supposed evils of the very things the original sex comedy was reveling in. It's a bit like making a new extended cut of Peter Pan, which is interspersed with grim footage of the FBI on an operation to bust the island of Neverland, round up all the ringleaders, and send the Lost Boys to Borstals. Kinda like it. Kinda like it. That'd be a fun version of Peter Pan rather than the one for children.
We don't give a fuck! Girl, fuck them kids, yeah.
But the weird point about Naked Ambition is that the Chinese obviously didn't go to the trouble of producing a whole new additional plot on their own yuan. The Hong Kong production was purposefully shot as 2 completely different movies in one. Oh wait, really? That's kind of clever though. Naked Ambition was the proper movie, and The Inescapable Snare was the other side of the coin, destined for the mainland China market. I think that's brilliant. We should do Business Blazers. Brain Blazers also made for the mainland China market. I'll just record bits afterwards, which are just completely different and praising Xi. Genius. There's 1 billion people in China. That's a lot of ad dollars. And I love that money. I love that yuan. And this leads us into a wider issue about the future of Hollywood, which has very recently been overtaken by the Chinese box office for the first time. And that gap is only likely to get bigger in the future. The American movie industry is keen to capitalize on the soaring Chinese markets whenever possible. But that's a big ask, considering that relatively few international movies get the green light for a screening in China. So how the f*** did these movies get through? Like, what are we doing screening Fight Club or Lord of War in China? We discussed the totalitarian thing already. What's up? So, we're already seeing examples of Hollywood going the extra green mile to get on the right side of China from the very first reel. When Marvel's Doctor Strange encounters his mentor, the Ancient One, in the 2016 movie with Benedict Cumberbatch, the most gloriously named human being around, he finds a very different character to the Tibetan monk character who was depicted in the original comic strips from 1963. The movie casts British actress Tilda Swinton as a new androgynous Celtic reimagining of the ancient one, who appears to have uprooted from the Tibetan HQ of the comic strips and found a new pad in Nepal. Various different official reasons have been given for the change, including a notion that the original comic book strip character would be considered a racial stereotype today. But it also seems likely that Marvel Studios were acutely aware that China wouldn't be very interested in a film with Tibet at its very heart. Yeah, no shit, guys. This is, I mean, I don't like it, but of course, from a business perspective, of course that's what you're going to do. And I think it's why, like, more movies are like, when they want a movie to appeal internationally, they set it in loads of places around the world where they want their movie to sell, because it's like, cool. Then people from that area are going to see that movie. I live in Prague. Loads of movies are filmed here. And it's just used as a setting for, like, generic Europe. And I always love it. Like, sometimes I'll just be watching a film and I'll be like, that is my street. That is where I live. That is 30 seconds walk from where I live. And it's cool. I get it. Like, I mean, it makes sense. And although the more enlightened film studios of today would usually steer well clear of any allegations of whitewashing of a traditionally Asian character, it appears that Marvel preferred to take this inevitable criticism rather than miss out on the lucrative Chinese market. I mean, at least then, and to me, it makes perfect sense. Like, this isn't Marvel whitewashing something. I mean, it is. But when Marvel says, like, yo, we did it to appeal to China because we like money, I'm like, okay, Marvel, well, then it's just like you like money. You're not, like, racist. Which, you know, obviously one is better than the other. Obviously. Another decision made more at the 11th hour concerned the 2012 remake of Red Dwarf. You hear that drilling? You hear that drilling? Motherfucking infidels. They're back. They're trying to rescue Danny and I won't be having it. I mean, I will. What am I going to do? Stop building? I posted on Twitter. Like the building manager of this building sent me an email, and he's always slow. He's like, there was a flood in the hallway because the cleaner for the building left the tap on. Oh my god, that is so goddamn loud. She left the tap on, and it flooded into the cupboard in my office and basically soaked the whole wall, and it got all moldy. And I was like, yo, building manager, can you sort out some insurance so someone can come in and fix this? And I didn't hear from him, and I was like, well, I got mold in my office. I had to fix it myself. And 6 bloody months later, he's like, yeah, okay, so I contacted the insurance company. And I'm like, bro, I had a moldy wall. Do you think I could have waited 6 months? Are you stupid? And so I don't have the best relationship with the building manager. And he sent an email being like, they're doing construction in the office. Someone is upstairs doing construction. And literally 30 minutes later, it begins. And I'm like, mate, a little bit more notice would have been grand. And, I got delivery.
Who the hell is interrupting my kung fu?
Anyway, long fucking story short, I posted on Twitter, like, making a sarcastic thing, being like, why? And then the person doing the construction, who I know, it's not the building manager, cool dude. He was like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, no, I was just like making fun on Twitter. Please don't be angry. I didn't think anyone would see it. And I felt uncomfortable. I'm so excited. Can you see my address? Let's not do it that way. I'm excited about this. I know what this is. It'd be embarrassing if this wasn't what I thought, and it turns out it's one of my, like, sex dungeon toys. Not really. I know what this is. I know what this is.
Is my in a box?
It's in a box. Ooh. When did we become an unboxing channel? Oh, this looks f***ing great. This is completely irrelevant to this channel.
Okay.
This is for my Casual Criminalist podcast. Oh my god, this looks amazing! It's a notebook that I had made. This is the sample one. Oh, it's like covered in leather. It's got like definitely not my crime stamped on the front. It's got the logo down at the bottom. Oh my god, this looks incredible. They have done an amazing job. Wow. I am so impressed. And then on the front page in here, it says, the Casual Criminal's 31st rules. And I had it expanded to be 100 pages big. The default was like 70, and it's got this cool, oh my god, this is absolutely beautiful. I am overwhelmingly impressed. Holy that is a really beautiful notebook. Well, I'm going to order several hundred of these. Let's get back to it. Oh my god, that looks so good. Another decision made rather more at the 11th hour concerned the 2012 remake of Dawn. The original 1984 film had featured the Soviet Union as America's bad guy antagonist, but the remake had initially decided to show the US buckling under the strain of a Chinese invasion. It was only during post-production that the film district suddenly realized that depicting China as an aggressive invading force might do some considerable damage to potential ticket sales in China. Indeed. So, at a cost of around $1 million, the film was only $1 million? That seems incredibly reasonable. The film was completely rejigged with special effects companies to transform China into North Korea. The dialogue was altered wherever possible, and the hordes of Chinese soldiers marching through the US with their red communist flags had their uniforms and flags digitally altered to represent North Korea instead. They should have just done this little green screen, make everything green, or like digitally alterable, and then just flog it around the world to whichever country, change the countries up and dub it, and then just put whichever country's enemy in there. That would be a brilliant way to sell it. They could have done it, they could have even sold it in North Korea by making North Korea the Americans and the Americans North Korea. Easy.
You know how much I sacrificed?
It might seem a little unlikely that North Korea would be capable of mounting such a devastating military attack on the US, but realism gets thrown out of the window when you're trying to tap into the Chinese box office. And it's not like North Korea were ever going to buy the movie, so, well, screw them. And all of this led to growing concern that future Hollywood blockbusters are more likely to be pandering to the Chinese authorities in a bid to make big bucks from the world's largest movie industry. And this desire to access the Chinese market is going to lead to a dilution of tackling real social issues as Hollywood becomes interested in sucking up to a communist dictatorship with a disturbing human rights record. But, I got some bad news, my dudes. Hollywood isn't interested in, how did we describe it, tackling real social issues? Hollywood is interested in making extremely large amounts of money.
Lies. Oh, lies!
In other words, China's new grip on global cinema could influence the future of the whole industry and not in a good way. And don't expect to see Herdy Goes to Tibet anytime soon. But let's get right back to the final plot twist in the Fight Club saga. Although the author of the original novel, Chuck...
You can't even speak.
Yes, I can!
Although the author of the original novel, Chaco, initially appeared to express dripping sarcasm on Twitter, he later pointed out something of interest to the TMZ online newspaper. The new Chinese edition shown on Tencent Video actually bears closer resemblance to the end of his original book, in which the bombs malfunction, the terrorist plot is foiled, and the narrator wakes up in a mental hospital, which he wrongly assumes to be heaven. Wait, is that the actual end of the novel of Fight Club? That's wild. Wow. It was director David Fincher who insisted on the fireworks of the climax of the movie adaptation, even though it went in the complete opposite direction of the original text. Chuck joked that maybe China was just trying to recreate a more authentic version which remained faithful to his novel. But I would hazard a guess that Senator Ted Cruz has never read the book, and that noise is going to drive me absolutely batty.
Daddy, chill.
But I would hazard a guess that Senator Ted Cruz has never read the book when he took a swipe at the Chinese cut of his beloved movie. Chuck pointed out that he's been fighting censorship on home soil for decades. The Fight Club novel was later edited to reflect the events of the movie version, and Chuck claims that the original version is still banned in many parts of the US, while several schools and prison systems point blank refuse to carry any of his work. They really edited his book afterwards? Doesn't he have any say in that? Really? And yet people only seem to get worked up about oppressive censorship when China gets involved. Maybe we first need to look a little closer to home before we start waggling too many fingers in the direction of the East. And I strongly suspect that Simon swiftly censored my brilliant 7-page introduction about that time I got into a drunken apple bobbing contest with the cheating swine that is President Xi Jinping. Yes, Danny, we do nothing to upset China. This has been an episode of World News Wednesday from Brainblaze. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, there's a like button below. There isn't a dislike button anymore, so suck it! and I'll see you next time.
Magnificent! Magnificent! Magnificent!